All right, the first words I want to go through are words that already exist, but that the left has redefined. All right, so the first word I want to talk about is the word ally. This term used to mean countries fighting together against a common enemy. Ally now means straight chicks who have lots of gay male friends who typically trick these straight girls into believing that they're too good for every great guy that they meet and convincing them to die childless and alone. An ally can also be referred to as a rainbow chaser, a glitter buddy, or a fairy godmother. All right, let's move on. Domestic terrorist. This term used to be reserved for maniacs who blew up buildings and murdered large numbers of people in order to cause some kind of political or cultural shift. The term domestic terrorist is now used to describe anyone who challenges the deep state. This includes the parents of public school children, Catholics, and of course, people who make their pets vegan. That last one is accurate. Conspiracy theory. Now, this used to mean outlandish ideas that were obviously untrue, stuff that nobody believed except for a few kooks. And these things were usually pretty fun to think about. Bigfoot, the fake moon landing, crop circles. The term conspiracy theory today has come to mean an accurate observation about the left. Transition. Now, this used to mean changing from one state or condition to another. Transition now means the process of applying an extreme cosplay costume. Diversity. Well, this now means just more black people. Inclusive. This now means, of course, exclusive. Far right. This now means centrist. Fascism. Ronald Reagan defined fascism best, I think.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism. And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation. Well, isn't this the liberal philosophy? The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
But today, according to the left, the term fascism just means anyone who refuses to use preferred pronouns. Nationalist. Now, this is a tricky one. Although this is essentially a synonym for patriot, the word nationalism is also part of the term white nationalism, which is an entirely different thing. But because it sounds like they're related, leftists use this as a kind of rhetorical hack, gaslighting their naive Democrat voters into thinking that the word nationalist is synonymous with racist. Christian nationalist. Now, this one has become particularly popular lately. It is the left's latest lie about conservatives, tricking naive Democrat voters into believing that Christians have a sinister plan. This is what they're telling their base now, have a sinister plan to force convert everyone in America, or at least to punish anyone who does not live by biblical teachings. Yeah, that's what they're telling their base now, that all of us conservatives are Christian nationalists. That's their thing. But then there's probably the best known redefinition of them all, racism. Racism used to mean, and in truth still means, racial favoritism or hatred. The left now claims that racism is racial prejudice plus power. The definition is essentially the same as before, but now it's only applicable to white people. So it's essentially a racist definition of racism. And then there's the big one, the atomic bomb of all words, Nazi. The left says the word Nazi about as often as Samuel L. Jackson says the word fuck. But here's the funny thing about that. The overuse of this term by the left has actually rendered it entirely meaningless. All right, now, as I said before, the left does not just redefine old words, they invent a lot of new words. And let me tell you, there is a lot of them. All right, let's get into it. The first term I want to talk about, MAGA extremist. This, of course, means sensible person. Neurodivergent. Those with a narcissistic desire for people to perceive them as special because they think differently. The implication, of course, being that they're smarter than everybody else. Minor attracted people. You've probably heard this. Minor attracted people. People who are attracted to minors. This is, of course, the left's term for evil pieces of shit. All right, there's a new term. I don't know if you've heard of this. Othered or othering. This is a weird one. And this is the left's new term. This is true. It's essentially their new word for discrimination. You know, it's funny because they used to use discrimination, then they switched to marginalization, and now it's othering. Jimmy didn't know what the word othering meant, and so his Antifa friends othered him. Why is the left so weird? All right. Unhoused. Well, we can't say homeless anymore because that's triggering. So we have to say unhoused. I know what you're saying. You're listening to this and going, man, leftists are so annoying. And you would be right. That is true. All right, here's a good one. Lived experience. For leftists, these two words have replaced the single word experience, a word that is still used by us conservatives. My truth. This, of course, means not the truth. I quite like that one. Social justice. This word, of course, means injustice. Colonizer. This is the left's hateful racist word for white person. White privilege. White privilege is the immense intrinsic benefits of being white that racist black people imagine we white people have, but we actually don't have. But by allowing themselves to believe that these imagined benefits are real, this allows black racists to feel justified in their racism. All right, here's a good one. Cisgender. This is an exclusively leftist term. The rest of us tend to use the word normal. Gender non-binary. This term indicates a person desperate for attention. I feel like I could have made that one funnier. They can't all be gold, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Misinformation. So for leftists, this has a pretty simple definition. Conservative ideas. Disinformation. Also conservative ideas. Intersectionality. Black and gay.
Coffee's good with cream, but better when it's black.
Microaggressions. Anything ever said or done by straight white men. Latinx. A term that Latinos find personally offensive. Decolonization. This is the expulsion of a dominant demographic group from a region with the intent to replace that group with another demographic group that is favored by leftists. This is also known as colonization. Cultural appropriation. This is the phenomenon of black people driving cars, flying in planes, and using electricity. Anti-racism. Racism. That's the definition. Homophobia, the fear of the awkwardness that will inevitably ensue when a straight man gets hit on by a gay man. Fat phobia, the accurate recognition that obesity is unhealthy and unattractive.
It's funny because he's fat.
Existential threat, not a threat.
How dare you?
Bidenomics, disastrous economic policies. Equity. Equity is the practice of rewarding weakness, laziness, and failure, and punishing strength, hard work, and success. Again, not as funny as it could have been. I dropped the ball on that one, folks. I gotta work harder on some of these. All right. Gender-affirming care. Child abuse. People of color, a racist term used to elevate everyone outside of the white race. Mostly peaceful. This, of course, means everything is on fire.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly, but fires have been started.
Whiteness. Now, I actually asked the AI chat on X, Elon Musk's AI chat Grok, to define this one for me. And I'm not joking. This was the definition. Everything the left does not like about white people. Things like punctuality, individualism, the nuclear family, the Protestant work ethic, which includes hard work and personal responsibility, self-reliance, and independence, rational thinking, scientific progress, logic, reason, evidence-based decision-making, individual rights and freedoms, respect for authority, i.e. parents, teachers, and law enforcement, personal achievement, education, competition, and success. So essentially, the definition of whiteness is everything good. And finally, insurrection, which is of course defined as a guided tour.